Welcome to AK Anime Explainer. Today is explanation of Soul Land 3, Legend of the Dragon King Part 184. Without any delay, start explanation. Is that guy even human? That pair of giant hammers can't be solid, right? Questions like these arose in the hearts of countless members of the audience. Tang Wulin shook his arms slightly. The giant hammers and their 38th disorder-splitting wind hammer had pushed him to his limit. Even with his incredible strength, constant pangs of ache and pain shot through his arms. I haven't even hurt him after all that. This guy is way too strong. Tang Wulin drew a deep breath. He suddenly took a great step forward and picked up his two giant hammers from the ground. With a flash, he returned them back into his storage bracelet. I can't use them anymore. My arms can no longer take it. Even if I used them again, I wouldn't be able to recreate the same effects. For his part, Long Yu also drew a deep breath. His chest, which was slightly indented by the hammers, puffed up once again. He held his double-pointed lance in one hand and raised his other hand. He extended a thumbs up toward Tang Wulin. In the battle of brute strength, he had come up slightly short. He had to admit it. Tang Wulin's arms were killing him, but he was not exactly in the best of shape either. The enhancement of strength from the Mountain Dragon King was already extremely terrifying in itself, and his cultivation base was far superior to Tang Wulin's, but he still lost in a match of strength. His eyes gradually turned red. Tang Wulin's power had aroused Long Yu's fighting spirit. Initially, he was of the opinion that there was no opponent in this continental young high-ranking Soul Masters elite competition who could fight at his level, which was why he lacked interest all this while. He started becoming more driven after the arrival of the group from Shrek Academy. Nevertheless, their age gap was clear for all to see. Even if the strengths that Tang Wulin and the others had displayed were truly outstanding, Long Yu had not taken them seriously as opponents. After all, he himself was no longer comparable to his own peers. I'm getting serious now, came Long Yu's deep voice. Tang Wulin drew a deep breath. He extended his arms to his sides. Sparks of starlight stretched and spiraled around. Starting from his golden dragon claws, they continued spreading upward. The golden armor rolled over his claws, arms, and shoulders. Under the glow of the dazzling starlight, it merged with his body. After the pauldrons came the breastplate. The breastplate protected his chest, but there was no sign of a core component. According to the design of this set of battle armor which GUU made for Tang Wulin, the location of the core component was at the abdomen. Yes, only a few days had passed, and Tang Wulin had another breastplate. He now had 5 pieces of battle armor. Although he was still a few pieces short of a complete set, he was getting increasingly closer to that goal. On the platform, Dai Qianling looked at the stage with confusion. Why did he let go of his weapons? Didn't those hammers give him the upper hand? ENCI said dryly, yes, I didn't expect Tang Wulin to be able to gain the upper hand in terms of strength. I've forgotten how long it has been since Long Yu lost to his opponent in terms of strength. However, Tang Wulin was only able to achieve that with the pair of giant hammers and Tang Sect's disorder-splitting wind hammer after all. Disorder-splitting wind hammer and the pair of giant hammers placed a great burden on his body. If he continued to use them, his arms would have been done for. Besides, he himself could no longer control such an immense force. I see. Dai Qianling was only hit with a sudden realization now. Elder Cai sat there, wearing a poker face from the beginning until the end. It was as if the current match on the competition stage had absolutely nothing to do with her. In the waiting area, the team members from both sides were watching this match anxiously. When Long Yu was sent flying by the hammers, Dai Yuna could not help but shriek. In her heart, Long Yu was undefeatable. But in that instant, her heart was already at her throat. Mountains. On the competition stage, Long Yu shouted again. Lofty mountains rose from the ground. Rivers. Great rivers formed a crisscross network among the mountains. It was like a classical landscape painting. Tang Wulin felt that amidst these mountains and rivers, he had become insignificant. It was as if he had turned into a grain of dust in the world. Long Yu disappeared among the mountains and rivers. There was nothing but endless pressure from all directions. This place no longer seemed like the competition stage. It now looked like they were in a different world, a world in which Long Yu was the overlord. Could his soul skills really merge with each other to produce this otherworldly ability? As Tang Wulin felt fear creep into his heart, the mountains around him started crumbling. Chunks of colossal rocks fell from the skies and crashed down toward him. On the ground, the great Yangtze River surged madly and rolled straight to where he stood. Even if he knew that all these were only illusions, the immense pressure was not in the least fake. It was so powerful. He inhaled deeply. The golden light in Tang Wulin's eyes intensified. Shortly after, a wild roar sounded. A faint shadow suddenly detached itself from his body. Since this is an illusory world, I'll fight illusion with illusion. A huge figure appeared behind Tang Wulin, roaring furiously toward the heavens. It sent out a vibration so strong that the mountains and rivers rippled like water. The lashing force paused, then its huge tail swept sideways and instantly sent the mountain rocks around him flying in all directions. This was a giant overlord dragon that was more than 60 meters in height. As soon as it appeared, it brought with it a pressure that seemed to bear down on the entire world. Tang Wulin squinted his eyes slightly, and his body flashed with golden light. A golden vine transformed into a dragon. It carried his body and shot into the heavens. As it brought him into the skies, the golden figure increased in size and continued merging with his bloodline aura. The golden dragon hovered in mid-air. Loud and sonorous dragon roars sounded. It shook the mountains and rivers so hard that they started crumbling. Boom! Finally, everything turned into bubbles and vanished all around him. The overlord dragon and the golden dragon disappeared, along with the mountains and rivers as well. A purple light flickered within Tang Wulin's eyes. On the other side, the blood-red glow in Long Yu's eyes was also extraordinarily bright. But in the eyes of the audience, the two of them were just standing there as they stared at each other as if nothing had ever happened. Long Yu had a cultivation base of 6 rings. Although he was already a Soul Emperor, he still had a long way to go before his power reached the true level of realms. The clash just now was a collision of spirits between the two opponents in which they merged their spiritual powers and their own personal experiences. Tang Wulin was obviously weaker than Long Yu in his spiritual cultivation base. The Golden Dragon King bloodline suppressed the Mountain Dragon King, and this was what made the collision between their spirits evenly matched. Nice! Long Yu shouted. Swamps! The land turned muddy. This time, it was not illusory. Tang Wulin leaped into the air to evade it, but the swamp surged upward and chased after his body. It was as if it wanted to swallow him within itself. Tang Wulin dared not slack off. His golden soul ring switched to his 4 soul rings. Tendrils of blue-silver grass were released and lashed at the swamp underneath him. Just like when he was fighting the devil soul great white sharks in the ocean, he ceaselessly whipped the swamp with his blue-silver grass. With blinding speed, he pounced in Long Yu's direction. Long Yu snorted. He thrust the double-pointed lance in his hands directly into the ground. He twisted it, and the giant dragon's illusory shadow appeared behind him again. His soul skills were more powerful than the previous ones. If it had been any other soul master with a 4-ringed cultivation base, he would have already been completely overwhelmed by now, but Tang Wulin's bloodline was truly unique. It was so unusual that Long Yu was astonished to find that he was unable to suppress him. His soul skills did not have the desired effects on Tang Wulin. If that had been the case, then he would have crushed him with brute strength. Tang Wulin was almost upon Long Yu. Blue-silver grass vines swarmed outward like bees. His 4th soul ring lit up for the blue-silver overlord transformation. The enormous overlord dragon head appeared behind him. Every blue-silver grass vine had instantly become as thick as huge dragons. They flew toward Long Yu and coiled around him. The shocking thing was that Long Yu did not dodge them. He allowed the vines to entangle his body. Tang Wulin's pair of golden dragon claws also arrived in the next moment and struck toward his chest. Unmovable as the mountain, Long Yu roared aloud. His entire person suddenly turned lofty. Tang Wulin's pair of golden dragon claws clawed into his back, yet it felt like he was grabbing onto an enormous mountain. Although there were stone chips scattering everywhere, he could feel excruciating pain pulsing through his arms, and the intense reaction blew Tang Wulin away. Tang Wulin felt horrified in his heart. Based on his experience, he immediately understood what happened. The so-called unmovable as the mountain was the product of Long Yu fusing himself with his first soul skill, mountain. Could this be done? It seemed soul skills could be used in such a manner. The mountain could be used on the outside, but also on the inside. He was the mountain, unmovable like the mountain. Surge as the river. Long Yu moved just then. The mountain grew larger, pushing away the blue-silver emperor vines. His right fist suddenly flung forward with a ball of piercing blue radiance. Long Yu seemed to have turned into a great surging river and slid out of Tang Wulin's grasp. The terrifying force charged 9 times against Tang Wulin's body. Tang Wulin could only summon the golden dragon shocks the heavens in a desperate attempt to withstand Long Yu's barrage. Despite his efforts, the force was truly too powerful, like the mighty torrent that crashed against the shore. Tang Wulin's battle was emitting golden light with streams of starlight coiling around, yet the terrifying force of the impact still blew him away. Fresh blood poured out from Tang Wulin's mouth. He felt as if his body had been smashed into smithereens, and his internal organs were being tossed and turned about. He feared that without the battle armor's protection, one blow would have been enough to end the fight. Long Yu was too powerful. He was crushing Tang Wulin with his cultivation base alone. He had a 6-ringed Soul Emperor's cultivation base in addition to his powerful Mountain Dragon King martial soul. Was Tang Wulin completely helpless against his attacks? Tang Wulin took a deep breath, and, with great effort, he aroused his bloodline's aura to keep himself from falling to the ground. Long Yu swayed his body. In the next moment, he had vanished in a ghastly manner. His entire person seemed to have fused into the ground. Soon after, a pillar of dark brown mud surged out from below. It engulfed Tang Wulin's body like a muddy geyser without warning. Tang Wulin could only release vines of blue-silver grass to guard the area surrounding his body, but the muddy swamp's power was pulling him in. His bloodline source was powerful, but the huge disparity between his cultivation base and Long Yu's was quite apparent. Of course, Tang Wulin's Golden Dragon King bloodline was more powerful than the Mountain Dragon King bloodline, but he did not possess the whole Golden Dragon King bloodline. He had only broken 5 seals up to this day. Thus, he could only bring his imposing manner to Long Yu, but not substantial compelling force. The terrifying attack produced from Long Yu's own body fused with his soul skill was already similar to a Soul Master's martial soul avatar. In fact, his was even more powerful than that. The Mountain Dragon King's ability was vividly displayed by him. He was completely surrounded by the mud. Tang Wulin released his soul skills one by one in an attempt to struggle free, but the horrible mud was suffocating him in darkness. This was truly too horrendous. He could finally sense the enormous disparity of their cultivation bases. If he had 6 soul rings, 6 soul skills and had broken through even more Golden Dragon King seals, perhaps he could really compete against Long Yu with his natural endowments. It was too late for that right now. Just like how everybody else had determined, at the age of 20 Long Yu was almost peerless among humans. Boom! The tornado-like swamp dropped from the sky and slammed ferociously onto the ground, pinning Tang Wulin down. Great blasts of mud pressed him onto the spot. Soon after, a mountain suddenly bored out from below and pushed his body up. He was raised to the top of the protective shield at 200 meters high. Long Yu's figure was revealed. The mountain and mud had all disappeared while Tang Wulin's body dropped down from the sky like a stone. That was an altitude of 200 meters. Long Yu's huge tail broke out and lashed onto Tang Wulin's body just as he was about to arrive on the ground surface. He was hit so hard that he was catapulted skyward and crashed into the protective shield before he fell back onto the ground. It all happened within a few short seconds. The entire process had utterly no transition from the moment Long Yu started fusing his soul skill with his body until Tang Wulin was completely engulfed. Tang Wulin was completely overwhelmed such that he did not even stand any chance against Long Yu, who started the attacks with all his power. It was truly terrifying. These were the words that were most suitable to describe Long Yu. Even the Star Luo Empire's common people could not help gasping in fear after witnessing such a battle scene. This was definitely not something that could be achieved by an ordinary person. The red glow in Long Yu's eyes was turning brighter with time, while the wild aura was beginning to burst out from his body. Usually, he had rarely devoted all his effort to a fight. Not that he was reluctant, but he found it very difficult for him to control his emotion once he had entered the state of focusing all his power for battle. It was just like the catastrophe that was unleashed when the Mountain Dragon King's oppressed emotion burst out. Hence, the Long Yu who usually appeared easygoing was in reality Madman Long. He was the person who would sink into madness when he devoted all his strength to launch his power. Even the most formidable would have some kind of issue. The world was supposed to be balanced. Long Yu was strong, but he also had this tremendous problem at the same time. It was Tang Wulin who was about to face this problem of his at this exact moment. His internal organs were burning and all of his bones seemed to have broken in half, but Tang Wulin still remained conscious. The intense agony made him clearly sense the surging of blood in his body. He turned over with great effort and slowly got up with his arms outstretched to support his body. I haven't lost yet. The idea sustained his body while a tinge of blood color made its way into his eyes. Then, he saw an enormous figure was walking in his direction. It was Long Yu, his body now filled with ferocity. Tang Wulin raised his head and looked up at Long Yu. His gaze was indomitable and determined. He relied on not only his power but also his companion's help in order to come as far as he had. Yi Xinglan gave up her own match at all costs in order to ensure that he could become more powerful to resist Long Yu. She devoted all her effort to help him forge battle armor. Otherwise, how could he have 3 more pieces of battle armor in such a short period of time? Yuan and Yehui took the initiative to give up on the match between Tang Wulin and herself, so she could give him the opportunity to fight Long Yu. He held his companion's hope and the honor of Shrek Academy in his hands. How could he allow himself to lose? The intense fighting spirit aroused Tang Wulin's body. He flung out his hands abruptly as he focused all his strength into his right golden dragon claw. 5 streams of golden lights cut through the sky and had already slashed straight into Long Yu, who was standing in front of him. He can still attack. Everyone on the audience platform was shocked by witnessing the scene. What sort of willpower was this? How could he still attack after suffering from such severe injuries? Oh no! On the spectator stand, ENCI's expression changed. He understood his disciple all too well. The series of flare-ups earlier had already triggered Long Yu's feral nature. After so many years of continuous cultivation, Long Yu had been attempting to maintain his emotions with great effort so that he did not lose control. The red color in his eyes had already started fading away when he was walking toward Tang Wulin. This signified that he had already got his emotions in check. He should be able to exercise control over himself as long as Tang Wulin accepted his defeat or stopped resisting. However, ENCI had never expected that Tang Wulin to still be able to launch an attack under such circumstances after being so severely injured. What more, such a powerful technique? Long Yu raised his right leg almost subconsciously, using it to block the golden dragon claw. 5 streams of dark golden light sliced 5 deep cuts onto his knee. His hulking 10-meter-tall body shook involuntarily. The intense agony made Long Yu roar in rage. Then, in front of the entire enraptured audience, he raised his massive right leg of his to stomp onto Tang Wulin. ENCI could have dashed outside immediately when he realized that something bad was about to happen, but instead he hesitated for a moment. Tang Wulin came from Shrek Academy. There was no doubt that he was the most powerful student in the age group of 15 years old. Moreover, ENCI could tell from his previous battles that his bloodline power was even capable of producing some suppressing effect on Long Yu. Under such circumstances, he would undoubtedly become a huge threat in the future if he were to grow. He could even possibly become just like that person and suppress the entire Star Luo Empire's Soul Masters world. Should this kind of person truly be allowed to exist in this world? Thus, ENCI hesitated. In the end, he did not do anything to stop Long Yu. Thus, Long Yu went ahead and stomped onto Tang Wulin's body. Cries of alarm echoed through the entire Star Luo Coliseum. Shrek Academy's contingent dashed out from the waiting area promptly. Even Dai Yuna could not help covering her dainty mouth. Her gaze was filled with fear. Madman Long, he was Madman Long. The audience saw blood splattering all over when he stepped onto Tang Wulin. Even a steel bar would be deformed from such a heavy stomp. Madman Long did not seem to be satisfied yet. His right leg was raised again and soon, he stomped ferociously on Tang Wulin's body again. Meanwhile, a figure dashed toward the competition stage in a hurry. A stream of red light flashed past as he moved to the front of the Soul Protective Shield, which was breached by force to everyone's surprise. The figure slammed angrily into Long Yu just as his right leg was about to stomp on Tang Wulin for the second time. A shocking scene ensued. Long Yu's enormous body was blown away instantly toward the other side of the competition stage from the impact. On the audience platform, ENCI's body swayed once, and he appeared on the competition stage in the next moment. He blocked the figure that knocked Long Yu away. "Who are you? How dare you make trouble in Star Luo City?" ENCI clasped his hands behind his back. His transcendent powerful aura burst forth from his body. In a flash, the entire competition stage Soul Protective Shield was shattered instantly to everyone's amazement. The individual was suspended in midair as he looked at ENCI coldly. There was a 3-meter-long epi in his right hand. The epi's color was blood red while his skin was a ghastly dark golden color as he stared at ENCI grimly, with an aura no less inferior to ENCI's. ENCI was astonished as he was the #1 man who deserved his title rank 98 title Doluo. He was the absolute powerhouse, yet the person before him had an aura that was no lesser than his. How high was the person's cultivation base? Elder CAI had already flown out when Long Yu stamped on Tang Wulin the first time, but the unknown individual managed to arrive first despite moving later. Hence, Elder CAI arrived on the competition stage a moment later, right behind the mysterious individual. The mystery person who came was no other than Body Sect Master Mu Yi. For the time being, Shrek Academy's contingent had made their way near the competition stage. Nonetheless, the aura on the competition stage was so horrendous that there was no way they could approach it. Ji Yu's hands and even her lips were quivering. She felt a crushing pain in her heart when Long Yu stepped on Tang Wulin with his foot. Raw, Long Yu had already stood up from the ground afar. His eyes had completely turned a bright red, and he was rushing wildly toward Mu Yi. The aura on his body was growing stronger and his fourth soul ring was about to glow. Enough. ENCI stretched out to slap the back of his hand. A stream of golden light descended from the sky and enshrouded Long Yu's body like a chain, binding him so he could no longer move. "Is this a match?" Elder CAI's furious voice echoed. ENCI had an apologetic expression on his face. There's a possibility of losing control when Long Yu's martial soul is used at full force. In any case, everyone had signed the death disclaimer form in the individual match. "I'm truly sorry. Save Tang Wulin first." Mu Yi looked at him coldly. "Very well." He only uttered those 2 words when he tossed the epi in his right hand. The red epi transformed into a stream of red light and vanished silently into thin air. He descended from the sky, landing beside Tang Wulin. He pressed his right hand onto his body and carried out a simple examination. Then, he picked up Tang Wulin cautiously. There was no word fit to describe Tang Wulin's condition at the moment. The battle armor on his body had disappeared and fused into his body once again. His chest had collapsed. It was apparent that his sternum was crushed. The golden scales on his body had a fading radiance. There was blood all around the surrounding area. He was worse than dead. Mu Yi picked up Tang Wulin and turned to take another glance at ENCI. Then, he transformed into a stream of light that shimmered once before vanishing. The Doluo Continent delegation leader Tang Bingyao stood up on the audience platform. He looked toward Dai Qianling. Your Highness, I wish to ask for an explanation. Why didn't you stop Long Yu from killing when it was obvious that he had an absolute advantage under the circumstance that his martial soul couldn't be controlled? I don't believe that the judge couldn't do that. Dai Qianling's expression was gloomy. He did not expect such a situation to happen either. We'll provide an explanation to your respected delegation. I didn't expect the match to turn out this way either. We didn't manage to handle the emergency situation which happened in such a short time. The Empire will be providing the best medical services for the contestant Tang Wulin. The audience did not cheer because of the match's result. Everyone could tell that Long Yu had lost control during the last few moments. He was going to kill Tang Wulin as this was no longer a competition to him, but a life and death battle. No matter how powerful Long Yu was, he would not be an asset to the country if he was incapable of controlling himself. On the contrary, he might even bring catastrophe to the man on the street. Thus, their gaze as they looked at Long Yu did not seem like they were looking at a hero, but someone fearsome instead. What are we going to do? Where is that person taking the captain to? Xie Xie asked anxiously. He had a very close relationship with Tang Wulin. They were well acquainted with each other, having been among the earliest to join the group. He would never be who he was today without Tang Wulin's help all these years. Ji Yu's body was still quivering. Tears flowed down her cheeks uncontrollably. Her heart was in a chaotic mess at this moment. Don't panic, everyone. Since the person has taken the captain away, it means that the captain's still alive. There's still a chance to save him. It's not pragmatic for us to go searching blindly. Let's return to the hotel and wait. Yi Xinglan was the most clear-headed person at present. Yuan and Yehui nodded in agreement and spoke, that's right. Tang Wulin's going to be fine for sure. His ability to take a beating is strong. He's going to be fine. Xu Xiaoyan bawled aloud. Anyhow, they had seen Tang Wulin's battered body from all the trampling. There was so much blood on the floor. Ji Yu clenched her teeth as she turned and ran away. Everybody hastily chased after her in the exit direction. Elder Cai descended from the sky. Her expression was changing between worried and confused, which left her heart at a loss. Was I wrong? Allowing these children to face it all by themselves, was I wrong? A figure skittered past her side. It was Wu Zhongkong. Elder Cai turned her head and looked toward him. Wu Zhongkong's gaze now was colder than usual. Elder Cai, I don't care what sort of place this is, nor do I care whether I'm a delegation team member or not. If Tang Wulin dies, I'll certainly kill Long Yu. He turned around and left upon saying that. His figure shot out at a speed that was unusually swift. A match that was supposed to be fantastic beyond compare had turned into an unforeseen disaster during the grand finale. It was beyond anyone's expectation. However, now that the situation had played out this way, everyone had only one question in their minds. Was Tang Wulin still alive? Long Yu had calmed down gradually on the competition stage under ENCI supervision. He was well aware of what happened earlier. His expression was gloomy as he walked down the stage. The audience had mixed emotions. They were obviously on the winning side, yet not many were feeling jubilant. Teacher, is it true that Long Yu's emotion is uncontrollable once he uses his martial soul at full force? Dai Qianling asked ENCI. ENCI naturally understood Dai Qianling's motive. He sighed. I have been trying hard to help him control his emotions all along. However, it is very difficult to solve the problem caused by the Mountain Dragon King bloodline. We can only proceed with caution at the moment. I'll personally supervise him. If he's incapable of controlling his emotions, I won't allow him to leave the academy. Oh, what a waste. Dai Qianling shook his head. Based on Dai Qianling's knowledge of ENCI, he could tell that ENCI could actually intervene at the final moment because ENCI understood Long Yu absolutely well. However, he did not blame ENCI. After all, it was for the Empire's benefit. In a quiet room, Mu Yi's palm was fluttering about as he continuously tapped Tang Wulin's body gently. His expression was awful. He had examined Tang Wulin's body earlier on the competition stage, and would never have left the place in a hurry if not because Tang Wulin was still alive. However, he was holding on to a glimmer of hope as he took Tang Wulin with him. Tang Wulin's injuries were severe. Let alone the initial attacks, Long Yu's strength was so powerful that even his last trample was enough to flatten a hill, what more on a body of flesh and blood. Tang Wulin's internal organs were seriously injured as well. Mu Yi was not particularly skilled in providing treatment, but he was a titled Doluo powerhouse after all. If a shred of Tang Wulin's vitality could be maintained, then he could at least ensure that Tang Wulin could make it past the critical stage before he figured a way to heal him. It would have been better if they were on Doluo continent. The Holy Doluo from Shrek Academy was the best in the healing profession. Tang Wulin's chances of survival would increase many times over under her care and treatment. His palms guided those pieces of fractured bones together cautiously so that the bones were at least returned to its original state and were reconnected. Many of Tang Wulin's bones had punctured his internal organs, and the meridians in his body were in complete chaos. His injuries were definitely severe, not to mention he had a severe loss of blood. The fact that he did not die on the spot had proven that his vitality was truly resilient. Mu Yi felt like his heart was suppressed by a volcano as he thought about how it was not an easy task for him to come by such a disciple, yet he had ended up in this situation. If Tang Wulin were to die during the treatment, he would certainly take vengeance on Star Luo Empire, specifically Monster Academy. Suddenly, Mu Yi discovered a peculiar situation. Mu Yi had healed most of Tang Wulin's fractured bones, but he dared not touch some of the bones which had pierced his internal organs. This was because the injuries that involved Tang Wulin's internal organs, if mishandled, could result in the failure of his vital organs. To his surprise, he discovered that the bones which pierced into Tang Wulin's organs did not seem to be as deeply embedded as they were initially. In short, it seemed like his internal organs had somehow squeezed out the embedded bones. Mu Yi really felt odd. It was as if Tang Wulin's internal organs were made of silicon and exceptionally elastic. Despite the condition of his internal organs, which was not appealing, they were not too severely damaged. How could this happen? Mu Yi himself could only cultivate his internal organs to be as tough as his body. Even then, it was only after he had achieved 7 soul rings in cultivation base. What was Tang Wulin's cultivation base now? How did he achieve this? As body sect master, Mu Yi understood the human body's structure and its bodily functions more than anyone in Star Luo continent and Doluo continent to this day. Hence, he immediately stopped the attempt to pull out the bones that were pierced into Tang Wulin's internal organs upon discovering the peculiar changes in his body. He released gentle soul power with his palms and opened up his spiritual power to mindfully feel every minute change to Tang Wulin's body. After every tiny fragment of bone was painstakingly squeezed out by his internal organs, Mu Yi consequently used his soul power to guide and attach the bone fragment back to its original position. This was a long, tedious process, but Mu Yi was ardent in healing Tang Wulin. Even his eyes were glowing with iridescent radiance. Nothing was more alluring than the human body's mystery for body sect. Such a situation which was happening to Tang Wulin's body would never occur in an ordinary person. This was precisely the attraction for Mu Yi. After an unknown amount of time, Tang Wulin's bones were finally restored to their original state. Tang Wulin's internal organs were also rehabilitated to their initial condition under Mu Yi's guidance. Tang Wulin was still barely breathing, but at least his body structure and bodily functions had been brought back to normal. Mu Yi squinted. He pondered for a moment before walking to the bathroom located in his room and filled the bathtub with hot water. Next, he removed bottles of liquid from his storage soul tool but hesitated for a while before he poured some of the liquid according to a certain prescription into the bathtub. Instantaneously, the water in the bathtub began to change its color, turning into a unique indigo liquid. Tang Wulin's body was slowly lowered into the bathtub with the aid of the soul power. A faint smile appeared on his face. "Young fellow, it seems that you won't die this time. I didn't expect your body to be hiding such a capability. Anyway, I'd like to see how you'll be recovering." Mu Yi pulled over a chair and sat next to the bathtub. His spiritual power continued to pay close attention to Tang Wulin's bodily functions. "Not found. Guu stood in her room with a sullen expression. Inside the room, its ambience had a faintly domineering aura. "I'm sorry, my lord. That person left too soon. We weren't nearby at the time, so continue your search until you find him. If I've full use of my power, I won't need you incompetent fools anymore." Guu's aura was growing more ghastly with time. Yes. Tang Wulin was taken away by Mu Yi for a whole day without any news whatsoever. The Shrek Squad and Star Luo Empire's government officials were involved in searching for them. However, there had been absolutely no news of them. The Doluo Continent's Federation Diplomatic Corps proposed a formal protest of the grand finale match. Wu Zhongkong and Elder Cai were also engaged in the search for Tang Wulin. Unfortunately, there was still no clue as to his whereabouts till now. He's still alive. Guu's hands clenched into fists slowly. A layer of faint silver scales gradually emerged on her skin. If he's dead, I'll certainly feel it. He won't die, he's still alive for sure. Wulin, where are you? The tyrannical aura on Guu's body gradually vanished. Her eyes were all red and misty with tears. The Continental Young High-Ranking Soul Masters Elite Competition's individual match had ended. The champion was Long Yu while the runner-up was Tang Wulin. As for the subsequent ranks, were they still important? Due to Tang Wulin's severe injuries and disappearance, Shrek Academy's group of students refused to participate in the 2-on-2 grand finale match. Every one of them backed out from the match. There was only one thing they would do now, and it was to pray, to say a prayer for their captain. Old Tang. Tang Wulin looked at Old Tang standing before him in astonishment. He seemed to be acting like his usual self today, as he had always exuded a gentle aura every time Tang Wulin saw him. However, it was apparent that his aura today was unstable. You must first protect yourself well when you're fighting against a powerful enemy. Moreover, it wasn't a life and death battle but only a match. Why did you have to risk your life? Do you know that you were on a fine line between life and death? If it wasn't for the Golden Dragon King's bloodline power that protected you, you would have been dead. Although Old Tang's deep voice sounded solemn, it carried an oppressive feeling. Truthfully, the match is too important for me. I must devote all my effort to fight. It's for the honor of Shrek. I'll sacrifice everything to defend it, Tang Wulin spoke with determination. His memory halted at the moment when he was trampled by Long Yu, who bore down on him with the weight of Mount Tai. Following that, he did not know what happened. He was with Old Tang when he woke up. Honor of Shrek, something changed in Old Tang's voice. Tang Wulin nodded strenuously. Yes. Ever since father and mother left, I've been attending the academy where I've devoted all my effort. I truly love the academy. It's my home and I've my friends there. We represent the academy even when we're on Star Luo continent. As the team's captain, how can I cower when I face a powerful opponent? Yet, I still lost. This video will end here. Like video and subscribe to my channel.